Hello, and welcome to Podcast HR Borderless by Thriver Consulting Partners. It is wonderful to have you with us for another deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Now, before we really crack open our stack of research today, we do have a quick but a very important housekeeping note to share. In the spirit of full transparency, we just want to mention that this episode was generated with AI, but under the very detailed supervision of human professionals and, of course, representatives of Thriver CP.
That's right. We like to say that, technology is the engine, but the expertise, the strategy, and the whole review process, that is purely human.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. We have a massive stack of sources today: articles, internal research notes, market analysis, all centered around this really complex world of international hiring. And frankly, I want to start by just tackling the elephant in the room.
I have a feeling I know which elephant you're talking about.
The skepticism. It comes up constantly in the data. You have business owners, HR leaders who are used to hiring locally, and then they look at the international market, specifically using an employer of record, an EOR.
Right.
They see a monthly fee, somewhere between, say, $299 and $499, and their immediate reaction isn't, wow, what a deal. It's,
wait, that sounds suspicious.
exactly. It's the too good to be true reflex. They think, I'm getting a full legal employee, compliance, payroll, tax handling for a few $100 a month. Where's the catch? Is this a scam?
Is it even legal?
Great.
And honestly, I really want to validate that reaction.
Yeah.
As business leaders, we are trained to doubt things that look like magic. If someone tells you, hey, I can cut your expansion costs by 70% and speed up your timeline by 90%, you assume they're cutting corners.
You assume there's a huge risk involved somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what we're going to unpack today is that EOR services, they aren't magic. They are just really, really efficient business infrastructure.
So our mission today is to demystify this whole machine. We're going to break down how it works, why there are these massive price discrepancies in the market, which is a whole drama we need to get into.
Oh, yeah.
And really prove why this is a legitimate strategic advantage.
And to really understand the value, you have to look at the alternative. We need to walk through the old way of doing things. And I mean just glancing at it. We need to look at the painful details.
Okay, let's do it. Unpack the old way for us. Let's say I run a successful software company, maybe in the US or Canada. I find some incredible talent in Colombia. I want to hire them. What does my life look like if I do this the traditional way?
Your life looks like a lot of paperwork and a lot of waiting. To hire that person legally without an EOR, you have to establish a legal entity in Colombia.
Okay, establish a legal entity. That sounds like a checkbox on a form. But in reality, what is that?
It is. It's a nightmare. Based on the data we have, you're looking at upfront setup costs ranging from $25,000 to $100,000.
$100,000?
Yeah. You need local incorporation lawyers. You need to capitalize a bank account in the local currency. You need a physical address, register with the tax authority, Social Security, labor boards.
And I haven't even hired the person yet.
You haven't even sent an offer letter. You are just paying to exist. And it is not instant. In some countries, this takes 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So that developer you found,
they're gone.
Long gone by the time you're legally allowed to hire them.
So if I just want to hire 2 developers in Bogota, I'm potentially spending 6 figures and waiting a whole year just to get started.
Precisely. But here's the part that really kills growth. It's what the data calls the multiplier effect.
Okay, what's that?
That $50,000 or $100,000 setup cost. That is for one country. So let's say your strategy is to hire a team across Latin America.
Yeah.
You want 2 people in Colombia, 2 in Mexico, 1 in Brazil.
Right.
You don't just set up one Latin America entity. You have to do this entire bureaucratic dance 3 separate times.
So multiply the cost, the time, the headaches by 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes global hiring completely unscalable for anyone except, the Fortune 500s.
Which brings us to the EOR solution. The promise here is that I can hire that exact same person in Colombia, not in a year, but maybe next week. And instead of dropping $100,000, I'm paying a monthly fee around, $399?
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to be the skeptic again. Mechanically, how is that possible? If I'm not setting up the entity, who is? It feels like we're skipping a really important step.
We aren't skipping it. We are sharing it. An employer of record is a company that has already done all that hard work. They already have the legal entities established in Colombia, in Mexico, in Brazil.
Okay.
They have the bank accounts, the tax IDs, the local lawyers on retainer. So instead of you building your own infrastructure from scratch, you're essentially renting theirs.
I saw an analogy in the research that I think is perfect here. They compared EOR to WeWork.
It is a perfect comparison. Think about it. If you need an office for 5 people, do you buy land, hire an architect, get zoning permits, and build a whole building?
No, that would be completely insane.
Right. You go to a co-working space, you use their building, their internet, their coffee machine. They worry about the maintenance and property taxes. You just show up and work. EOR is the exact same concept, just applied to legal employment.
So just to be crystal clear on the roles here, the EOR is the legal employer on paper.
Yes. They handle all the, let's call it the boring stuff, contracts, taxes, payroll, compliance, benefits.
But I, as the client, I still control the employee's work.
100%.
Yeah.
You decide who to hire, you negotiate the salary, you assign the daily tasks, you do the performance reviews.
Yeah.
The EOR is just the chassis. You are absolutely still driving the car.
Okay.
And because they spread the cost of that legal entity across hundreds or even thousands of clients, the cost per employee just drops dramatically. That's why $399 isn't too good to be true. It's just the economy of scale at work.
Okay, that makes sense. It's infrastructure as a service.
Yeah.
But here's where I get confused again. If an EOR is just a commodity, just infrastructure, why is the pricing all over the map?
This is maybe the most critical part of this deep dive for anyone who is actually looking to buy these services.
Because I'm looking at the market and I see some providers, usually the ones with the really cool billboards at the airport, and they're charging $800, $1,000, even $1,200 a month for the exact same employee in the exact same country. Why?
It all comes down to what's happening under the hood. We have to talk about the two different business models, the broker model versus the direct provider model.
Okay, break that down. What's the broker model?
So a lot of the big name platforms in our sources specifically mention massive companies like Deal, Remote, Papaya Global. They often operate as brokers in many regions.
Meaning they don't actually own the entity in that country?
In many cases, no. I mean, think about it. It is incredibly difficult to own and operate payroll infrastructure in 150 countries. So what they do is partner with a local provider who actually does the work on the ground.
So they're just a middleman.
Think of it like booking a flight on a third-party travel site versus booking directly with the airline. The travel site gives you a nice interface, sure, but they don't fly the plane.
And when something goes wrong, the travel site blames the airline, and the airline blames the travel site.
Exactly. And that layering, it adds cost. Let's just look at the math. You might pay a platform, say, $799 a month. That platform then turns around and pays a local provider in Peru maybe $400 to actually process the payroll and handle compliance.
And the difference, that extra $400 is just their margin.
It is the margin for their brand, for their user interface, and for their marketing budget. You are paying for the billboard.
Wow. That is a huge distinction. So contrast that with the direct model.
The direct model is where you work with the company that actually owns the infrastructure. They're the ones with the local team, the local entity, the local expertise. There is no middleman.
And this is where we have to highlight Thriver Consulting Partners, or Thriver RCP. Our sources point to them as a prime example of this direct provider model, especially for companies hiring in Mexico and across Latin America.
Right, because Thriver is the underlying service provider. They are not outsourcing the compliance in Mexico or Colombia to somebody else. They employ the local experts directly. They own the entity. That's why they can offer services in that $299 to $499 range.
Yeah.
They've just cut out the markup layer.
There's a great real-world story in the notes here that really illustrates the financial impact of this. It's about a software company hiring just 3 developers in Mexico.
Yes, this is a classic scenario. So they went out and they got 3 quotes. Provider A, a major platform using the broker model, quoted them $849 per employee per month.
Okay.
Provider B, another big name, quoted $749.
And then they went to a direct provider C in this story who quoted them $399.
For the exact same service, same compliance guarantees, same payroll accuracy, same local expertise.
I actually did the math on this before we started because I couldn't believe it. For just 3 employees, the difference between the most expensive option and the direct option is $16,200 a year.
That is a full-time junior employee salary in many parts of the world. Just wasted.
Wasted on markup. Incredible. But I want to pivot to another psychological barrier that the research mentions. It's what we're calling the hidden cost fallacy.
This is a very common mental trap, yeah.
It goes like this. A business owner sees that $399 EOR fee and says, well, that's expensive. I pay $0 in fees for my domestic employees. Bob in accounting doesn't cost me a monthly fee.
It is a natural thought, but it's factually incorrect. Domestic employees are absolutely not free to manage.
But I don't see a Bob fee on my bank statement.
No, but think about what it takes to keep Bob employed. You're paying for your internal HR team's time to process his payroll.
Yeah.
You're paying your finance team to handle tax compliance. You have legal fees for reviewing the employee handbook, benefits administration.
Oh, and the software. The HRIS systems, the payroll software subscriptions.
Right. When you actually itemize all those costs, and we have data on this, domestic administration costs between $200 and $400 per employee per month. You just don't see it as a single line item. It's buried in your overhead.
That is a massive aha moment. So when you pay an EOR $399, you aren't paying an extra fee. You're just consolidating all those invisible administrative costs into one transparent number.
Correct. And on top of that, you are getting international legal expertise in a language you might not even speak and a legal system you don't understand. So when you view it that way, $399 isn't a surcharge. It's effectively the market rate for comprehensive HR admin.
That completely reframes the value proposition. But let's play devil's advocate for a minute. What if a company is just dead set against paying any fee? We talked about setting up your own entity, which is really expensive. But what about that other option everyone whispers about? Just hire them as contractors.
Ah, the contractor route. It looks tempting because it seems so simple. You just wire them money, right? No fees, no EOR. But the risks here are significant, and they are getting worse every year.
We're talking about misclassification, right? But isn't that just a slap on the wrist?
No, it is much, much more than that. We need to talk about a concept called permanent establishment.
That sounds ominous. What is it?
It is the tax authority's nuclear weapon. If you hire a contractor in, say, Brazil, but you treat them like an employee, you set their hours, you manage them directly, they're integral to your business, the local government can look at that and say, you don't have a contractor here. You have a permanent establishment. You have a branch office.
And what does that mean financially?
It means they can try to tax your corporate revenue as if it was generated in that country.
Wait, not just the employee's salary, my whole company's revenue.
Your company's revenue. Plus, you're on the hook for back taxes, unpaid Social Security, and massive fines.
So trying to save $399 a month could cost you your entire business model in that region.
Exactly. And that's not even getting into IP protection. Intellectual property laws vary wildly. In many places, if a contractor writes code for you, they own that code unless you have very specific, locally compliant contracts. With an employee through an EOR, the IP transfer is usually automatic and ironclad.
So the cheap contractor route is actually the high-risk gambling route.
Precisely.
Okay, so assuming our listener is convinced EOR is the way to go, and they want to find a direct provider to save that markup, how do they know the provider is legit? If I see a low price, how do I make sure they aren't just cutting corners?
You have to vet them. And there are 5 key questions you absolutely need to ask during the sales process.
Okay, let's do a checklist. Question number 1.
Do you own your infrastructure or do you use brokers?
And what's the telltale sign they're a broker?
If they start talking about trusted partners or a seamless global network, without just saying, we own the entity, that usually means they're brokering. A direct provider will proudly tell you, yes, we have a team of 50 people in Mexico City.
Okay, good tip. Question 2.
Who are your compliance experts? Legitimate providers can literally introduce you to their local lawyers and accountants. They are real people on their payroll. Ask to meet them.
If they can't produce a name, that's a red flag. Okay, 3 is about the money. What is included in the monthly fee?
This is a big one. Some providers quote a low base rate, but then they charge you extra every time you need to create a contract or offboard an employee. You want a flat, all-inclusive fee.
Got it. Question 4.
How do you handle regulatory changes? Labor laws change constantly. I mean, in Mexico, for example, the laws have shifted significantly in just the last few years.
So you need to ask for specific examples.
Exactly. Ask them, when the law changed in Mexico last year regarding profit sharing, what did you do for your clients? If they stumble, you run.
And finally, question 5. Track record.
Yep. References and operating history. Can they show you they've done this before for companies like yours?
This all brings us back to Thriver Consulting Partners. The reason we're highlighting them specifically for the LATAM region is because they can answer these 5 questions the right way.
Exactly. Thriver isn't just a software company pretending to be an HR firm. They are an HR and compliance firm that uses technology. They own the infrastructure, especially in Mexico and across Latin America. That's why they can charge 30% less than the big platforms, not because they're cheap, but because they are the source.
It's the difference between buying vegetables at the supermarket versus buying them directly at the farm stand.
That's the perfect analogy.
The farm stand is cheaper and fresher, not because the quality is lower, but because the supply chain is shorter.
Exactly that.
Let's zoom out as we wrap up. What is the big picture here? What does the rise of these accessible EORs mean for the future of work?
It means the democratization of talent. 10 years ago, global hiring was the exclusive playground of the Fortune 500. You needed a legal department the size of a small village to do this. Now, a 20-person startup in Austin or Toronto can hire the absolute best engineer in Buenos Aires, the best designer in Lisbon, and the best data scientist in Manila.
It really changes the philosophy of competition, doesn't it?
It does. The competitive advantage is no longer who is best at navigating bureaucracy in Poland. No company wins because they're good at payroll. You win because your product is better, your service is better. EOR lets you focus purely on your core business.
So to summarize, EOR is not too good to be true. It is just a smarter way of using shared infrastructure.
Correct.
And if you are paying top dollar, $800, $1,000 a month, you really need to ask yourself why.
Are you paying for a better service, or are you just paying for the billboard you saw at the airport?
That is the provocative thought we want to leave you with today. If you are currently using an EOR or you're looking for one, challenge the pricing. Ask those hard questions about infrastructure versus brokerage.
Your budget will thank you for it.
We want to thank you for listening to this deep dive. If you're ready to explore a direct provider model, specifically if you're looking to hire in Mexico and Latin America where you really need that deep local expertise, we invite you to visit Thriver Consulting Partners at thrivercp.com.
They're a leading EOR firm in the region, and just a great example of how this direct model delivers real value.
Go check them out at thrivercp.com. Until next time, think globally, hire strategically, and don't be afraid to question the price tag. Thanks for listening.